Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Cinema D'Amore. I'm your host, Chuck, joined by
Justin.
And this month we're getting into a nice theme, car movies. Now, we've already talked about the greatest car movies of all time, Fast and Furious, so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for these car movies.
We have to wait until 11 comes out till we can be on that level again.
Get back to that peak. But yeah, we're going. It's an interesting idea because you can kind of go. You could go anywhere with car movies. There's movies that are about racing cars, movies about
fucking cars,
hanging out in cars. Yeah, there's movies where cars are just everything on the planet, which still to this day I still have. That's one of my favorite things when people bring up the idea of certain things that are shown in cars that then make you go, wait a second. If the car's there, what's inside the car? Like, how does that work? Or like, I think in Cars 2, there's like a Cars Pope, and I'm like, does that mean there was a car Jesus? What did they nail the car to the crucifix? Like, how does that work? Like, it's
to the catalytic converter.
Those movies get very disturbing when you really start to try to figure out the inner workings of how a universe completely made up of just cars would actually function.
I consider doing that movie. It's just it's very natural when our theme is cars.
You know. The first one's not bad. I think the other two are that is one of the few times that I would say Pixar did drastically drop in quality, and the first one's still not even. I don't even rate it that high amongst Pixar movies in general, but the first one's not bad. But
it's the kids love Larry the Cable Guy, so we're gonna put in more Mater, and it's
really
work.
Crank up the Mater in number 2.
Yeah,
who cares about Lightning McQueen?
Yeah, so like I did think about cars, discussing cars. Because that is, as you said, the ultimate Cars movie. Everything in it is a car. The flies are cars. Yeah. Everything. And then
we've done some other good car movies. We did Crash. Crash is a good car movie.
Yeah. It really is. Oh, when I was saying fuck cars, I was thinking of Titan.
Titan. Yeah, I know that's what you were going for.
But, like, it is very much a car movie in the sense that the main character fucks a car and becomes impregnated by the car and has a car baby, but it's kind of not the main point. It's weird to say that. It's not the main point of that movie, and, you know, there's really not a car in most of the movie anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're starting off with a good classic car movie, George Lucas's American Graffiti.
Classic cars.
It's classic cars, and like rewatching this movie, it's been years since I've watched this movie, and like I don't want to like I knew I liked it, but I will say like I got reminded of like this movie's actually like really great, and like what happened to George Lucas? Like why couldn't he make another movie like this? Like obviously I get Star Wars was his real big passion, but like this movie, I don't know why he just didn't make more movies like this. Just
I mean, when you say more, there is more American Graffiti.
I know there's technically we technically did get
which I've never seen. I have only
Graffiti.
Watched this movie.
Yeah. I know it's got some of the same cast return for it, but yeah, it's
because George Lucas. He's done THX was his first movie.
That was his first one.
That's actually pretty good, but he does the Star Wars thing where he's like not happy, has to go back, edit, change it, and then this. I don't know what he does so well with this movie because there's actually parts in American Graffiti where I don't think that he planned it to be like he just got lucky with some of the performances.
I feel like there's definitely stuff that it came down to just there seems like a lot of parts that are probably very spur of the moment, like somebody just came up with, hey, this would be funny to do this, or like let me say this line, like there's because it feels I mean, and it kind of is, but it has a very independent film feel. Like it's not a big Hollywood production like a lot of his other films turned into after this when he got more famous.
Well, I mean, I'm just reiterating it. Like, he directs Star Wars, and then he just writes the rest of the trilogy and is a producer, and then gets really big off of toy sales and stuff and becomes really rich.
Yeah.
20 years
And then he
later,
just
he
does a
does.
lot of producing with like Indiana Jones. That just became his main role after
Yeah.
that was just a lot of producing and story, like
But did he
Howard the
direct
Duck
Red
and stuff
Tails?
like
Did he
that.
direct that movie?
He did not direct that. I think
Oh, okay.
he just produced and I don't even know that he wrote on it. I think he just produced it. I know that was like that was like always described as like a passion project of his that he was really into, but he didn't even direct it. He
So
just
Revenge of the
produced it.
Sith is his last movie that he directed.
Yeah. Yeah, so in total he's only directed 6 films in his entire career,
And almost all of them are Star Wars movies.
and 4 out of the 6 are Star Wars movies. So it's like that's
And
where
we talked about it when we did Star Wars, but a lot of his friends, or were they the Brat Pack? What did they call themselves? Coppola and Brian De Palma and was it Scorsese? They're watching
yeah.
they're watching his movie, and like Brian De Palma was like the one that's like, this movie doesn't make any fucking sense, George. And they said that it was like so bad and incomprehensible that it was pretty much saved in editing by his wife. They said the final product, they were amazed that it even made any sense by the time that it was done. And yeah, I'm wondering if that's more or less the same thing, because some things are weird in this. Like, there's a shot very early on where it's a shot of Ron Howard, and I think it's when he's talking to Terry, the kid that he has watch his car, and the shot's like he's terribly framed. Like, it makes me think of Mr. Robot almost, where he's like it's like from his chin to the top of his head, and then there's so much sky, like it doesn't. I mean, it's not a traditional shot by any means, but when you watch the rest of the movie, it kind of looks like an accident because there really aren't any other shots in the movie that seem that bad.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it was just one of those where like something was there and yeah, they had to frame it weird because there was something sticking out that they didn't want in the shot. But yeah, I know this was I think they said that they wanted him to someone just came up to him like a producer and they were like write a coming of age story. And so he like said he based like this off of when he was a kid in high school, and like this is what him and his friends would do.
Which character is he?
Yeah, I feel like he's Terry. He seems like he would. He seems like it would be. He probably sees himself as Richard Dreyfuss, but he's probably more of a Terry. He's the nerd. I feel like because he, like I think that's how he's talked about it. Like oh yeah, I based this off of like this was like when I was a kid in high school, and me and my friends would all go out driving, and it's just like knowing George Lucas and his personality from like everything you've seen later in life. I'm like, I find it hard to believe you had a lot of friends when you were in high school.
Yeah, and Terry doesn't have a lot of friends, but he's in like a weird group of friends. Like, he's friends with, he's like
He's
obviously
the guy that like
nerd
they
of the
almost
group.
like that like I don't want to say they feel bad for, but it's just like
Yeah.
it's like no one else will be his friend, so they're just like, yeah, whatever, you can hang out with us. Like they let him like tag along with stuff. But and yeah, I do love the everyone showing up at the beginning to the diner is like a great setup for like how these characters are. You got like Richard Dreyfuss with like his kind of like dumpy weird car that's like his is maybe like the ugliest car in the movie. Like everyone else has these nice like Fords and Chevys and hot rods and stuff, and then he shows up in this goofy car, and then you got Terry on a Vespa scooter that he like crashes.
That's like
Ron
a
Howard
motorcycle.
shows up with it's almost like a motorcycle. And then Ron Howard shows up with like his really nice car that, yeah, I love. Why don't you just watch it for me? Like instead of just parking it in the garage, he's just gonna give the keys to his friend. Like that'd be like if you were like, hey, I'm gonna go on vacation for a week. Why don't you watch my car? Like for no reason why I would need to watch your car. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, Justin, I have a Vespa. I don't need your car.
Yeah. In this small town that seems like I can very easily get to anywhere without a car. Like
That's
why
back
he,
in the
why
day
he
when
gives
nice
him his
cars
car.
cost you $2 and they were made out of really good material where they never broke.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he gets into a little bit of an accident, but doesn't
He gets
even
into, like, a
doesn't
few
even put a dent in
accidents.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Terry's funny. I do love how the car, again, going back to why this is a great car movie, because the car is like the identity for a lot of these guys. And he tries to be the cool guy, but everyone still makes fun of him while he's driving the car. Like, like that one group of kids like moons him. They're like, "Hey Terry, nice car," and he like thinks they're like really giving him a compliment. And the one kid moons him. And he's just like, "Oh, son of a bitch!" Like
When he goes to race that one guy, but he like prematurely goes forward.
he pulls out on like a turn signal that he shouldn't have gone on. Then that's when he backs into that other guy. He's like, "I believe we've had an accident. Well, I won't report you this time, but don't do it again," and just drives off.
The
Yeah,
thing that got me
everyone's-
this time, like, I don't... It didn't really stick with me so much the last couple of times that I watched it, but Ron Howard is, like... I think I like him from Happy Days, but he is such an asshole in this movie. He's, like, the least likable
is.
person. He's just a total dick to everybody, and I'm like... It's so weird coming from him because it actually honestly makes me think of the Gen Z kids now that kind of have that attitude that they're like they're cool, they're hot, or something like that, and then but they're just like dorks or would be dorks like at our time, like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, he's got his idea that since he's going off to college and leaving his girlfriend behind, he's like, well, I think we can like date other people. That would be good. That'd be a good idea, right? Like, we should totally just do that. I mean, you're not gonna see me for 3 months. Like, you don't want to get lonely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, I forgot that he is like that. Like I was like, oh, they're all like real good likable characters. But yeah, it takes him the entire movie to finally realize that, like, even when everyone's been telling him for the entire movie that he's being an asshole, he like still doesn't get it till the very end of the film.
Yeah, and then you get like the greaser. Is his name John? I feel like there's so many J names.
John, yeah.
The hot rod guy. He seems like he's gonna be the biggest dickhead. And within, like, the first 10 minutes or so, when he gets Carol in his car, he becomes, like, kind of like Big Brother-ish, and he becomes more likable.
He's embarrassed to have like a 14-year-old in his car. He's like, everyone's gonna think I'm up to something.
Yeah,
think I'm
and
a
they
creep.
still do. They have those weird lines. Like, I love Harrison Ford's character. He's not like a great standout character as, like, especially when you see Harrison Ford's other performances. This is probably not the best. Probably one of the worst Harrison Ford performances.
I mean, I think this is his first?
Yeah, I think it is. And then
I think this is his first. So, I mean, it's definitely, that's where I like kind of, like, I don't know, you got to give him a little bit of a pass.
Every time they show him, he's in the car with a different woman.
He's always
he can't find.
He looks
the
like
yellow
he's
hot
driving
rod.
around. He looks like he's driving around with like a 14-year-old at one point. Like, one of those girls looks way too young.
The very first one he's with too. No offense, she's hideous. She's so gross looking. I don't like. He's supposed to be the cool guy, but I just like him driving. Like, they keep telling John that this new guy, Harrison Ford, he's looking for you. He wants to race you. And, we get the idea that John is maybe a little timid, that he's getting too old, so he's, like, playing it off, that nah, he'll come to me if he wants me. But for some reason, Harrison Ford can't fucking find his yellow ass hot rod. Like, that town doesn't seem like it would be that large, even though everybody's always driving around everywhere.
Everyone's always driving everywhere. That 90% of this movie is people yelling from one car to another.
I love when they can't hear each
That's where
other.
you get so much
and
of the
that's
dialogue.
Scene. It's just a scene of two people yelling at each other and not being able to understand each other.
Yeah, just screaming at each other from two cars. Yeah, I don't even think that's a thing anymore. Of just well, the cost of owning a car, the cost of getting gas for your car, the cost of insurance. Like, that's just one of those. Like, that as a culture is like a thing that's died. Like, the last thing I can remember, people that would like I know there's still people that probably like meet up and show off their cars. Obviously, that go.
Oh
to
yeah,
car
they do.
shows
That's what
and
they do.
stuff
They
like
drive
that.
to
Like,
one place, they pop their hood
yeah.
open, and they hang out. They're not driving
They'll
around.
do that,
like they
but
used to.
like yeah, no one does like the driving around. Or like the only other last time I can remember people kind of like that would do something like this would be like you'd have like the kids with their Subarus and Toyotas that would like meet up in the McDonald's parking lot and like see which one sounded more like a dirt bike when they rev their engines and put like neon lights on the bottom when they were like, I almost feel like
But that
those
was
early
influenced by
Fast
the
and
Fast
Furious
and Furious.
movies. Yeah, that was like the last time there was like that going on everywhere. Like I said, there's still places that have that, but yeah, there's nowhere you'll never go to like a small town like, well, even where we grew up around here in the Mon Valley. Like, I know there's people I work with, some of the older guys that pretty much it's exactly like American Graffiti. They'd talk about like, yeah, we'd go down to the local shopping, whatever it wasn't like a Giant Eagle, whatever it would have been before that. Yeah, we'd all go down to the parking lot and then we just cruise around. And it's like, what were you doing? And they'd be like, man, just driving around. And I'm like, yeah, but did you go anywhere? They're like, nope, just out on the main street, just driving around. And like,
And
when
then they have a
just say
crazy
it like
story
that,
like what happened in this movie. Like, I could imagine my grandfather, or this would be a little hair younger than my grandfather, but like, oh yeah, back in the day, I was with this gang and they were threatening about how they killed people, and then they made me hook up a cop's car to a cable, and then the cops tried to chase them and it ripped the wheel. Like, it's such a ridiculous ass story that you would hear from that generation, as if it's like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
But I also kind of liked, because I brought up the Gen Z thing before, but they're like using all these like 50s terminology for things, and it's just like so off the wall, like these made up fucking words, and it makes me laugh because people are like, I don't understand Gen Z with all this language that they're making up, and
What's Riz? I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's the same stuff as this shit. But then like,
but now it's like in reverse, where like you're sitting there watching it and going, what the hell was that word? Like,
yeah.
Like yeah, I 100%, like we're somewhere in the middle there for our age, but yeah, 100%. If you were to show this movie to like a young niece or something like that, that's like 15 or something like that, like I don't know that they'd even comprehend 90% of this movie. Like so much of it would just not make sense to as to like
singing,
what's going on.
What goes is rock, and like everybody's into it, and it's kind of okay. But I fucking love the 50s rock where people are not, they're just making up words. They're like bop da bop da bop da bop bop bop. It's like not, you didn't fucking say anything. And they're like, back in the day, like we actually said shit. No, you fucking made shit up then too. And I love.
What are you saying? That's the original mumble rap?
It is mumble rap. It is the original mumble rap. And I also love, and I don't know if it's how well the casting is, but there are moments in this movie where I don't know if this person is supposed to be a kid or an adult, because there are some kids that look like they're fucking 50 years old, and then there are other kids that do actually look kind of young, and like if they're wearing a suit and have glasses, okay, they're a fucking adult. But beyond that, you can't really like.
Yeah.
There's a dance, and it's called they go to the hop, and then they're
Yeah.
literally singing a song about the hop, where they just keep saying the hop, and
That's so you know you're at the hop.
yeah, you have to know. I think they keep saying you're at the hop. I think that's the lyrics.
That's
But
the song.
Ron Howard's character, you find out that he graduated the year before, so he's like 18 or 19 years old, and there's kids going in there, and they literally fucking look like,
They look older than him.
yeah, the one definitely looks like he's had a really rough life. He's in his 40s or something. But then they have I like the stuff that they have in there too, with like how creepy some of them are. There's that teacher that's like kind of like hitting on the students. That's like, I would if I
Oh,
could,
yeah.
or how, his version.
Oh
of
man,
saying
if they came in and saw me dancing with all you sexy,
yeah.
beautiful ladies. and then there's like
that
there
line
almost
that
feels
Harrison
like
Ford has with Carol, where he's like, in 10 more years. I'm like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucking creepy.
there's it almost feels like there's leading to him and Richard Dreyfuss's character Kurt go outside, and he's telling him about how he doesn't know if he's going to go off to college because he keeps questioning that, like does he want to wait a year to figure out what he's going to do. And then there is like another like young girl that walks up and she's like, I need to talk to you in private, and it's like it feels like it's going to be like a I'm pregnant or something
Mhm.
like that, but it's never like mentioned or anything what that conversation is, but it feels weird, like that's what's happening there. He's the guy that couldn't stay away from his hometown. They keep getting younger and I stay the same age. One of those like.
He's also weird too that it's his sister that Ron Howard's dating, and like he literally is friends with this guy that treats his sister like a dick.
Yeah. Well, I think most of that. I think a lot of that is that he just doesn't even pay attention. Like he seems he's definitely the he has a lot of neuroses that he's like so worried and concerned at like being 18 years old that he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. So I think a lot of it's like it seems like he just ignores it and like doesn't pay attention to anything that doesn't directly deal with him. Then most of the movie he's trying to track down this lady in a T-Bird that he sees driving around. That becomes his sole focus of the movie, is trying to track her down. And no one will help him. Everyone always has like their own ideas. The one girl says like, "Oh, that's the wife of the guy that owns the used car shop or something like that." And then the Pharaohs, the street gang, are like, "That's a prostitute. You couldn't afford her."
Maybe we're not talking about the same person.
yeah. I don't think
Or
no,
broad,
no,
right? They're
We're not talking
broads.
about the same. Yeah. It's got to be for that time period. It's got to be a broad. We were past dames. That was in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
They're broads in the 50s. Yeah, I do. The structure of the movie, I think, works well for what it tries to do, and it's obviously like we haven't specifically mentioned all the other movies that 100% this film inspired. Probably the most notable is probably Dazed and Confused. Like I don't think that movie exists without this, because it's almost basically an identical plot to it. It's all except this is the last day. This film's like the last day of summer before the guys go off to college, and Dazed and Confused is the last day of high school before the guys are graduating. But like the exact same thing of just following characters, jumping off to other random plot lines, kind of just weaving in and out of people's stories.
Days might even be more heavy with characters, because there's people that literally will have a scene and you never see them again.
It's like I would say that one's like an even more ensemble cast of. There's so many people in that movie, but
I think it's like, yeah, I think Linklater is a better director than George Lucas. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's
It's
this
you
is
can almost say like Dazed and Confused is like the better version of American Graffiti.
yeah, I think it 100% is, and he captured a different time, so it has a lot. Like I think that's the biggest thing that separates these two movies, besides being, teens driving around in cars, kind of like a slice of life and worrying about their future type movie. It's
Yeah.
like kind of cool to see how they were, how accurate they were. I'm also really concerned about the fact that when you think about when these movies released and like their period pieces, they're not going back that far. I think they already it was like a couple years ago where they're like, if they made Dazed and Confused now, it would take place in 2005,
Like
and I'm like, Jesus
2005,
Christ.
Yeah.
And I think we're already past that, so we're probably already like if they made it today, it would probably be like 2010.
Because I think this movie's only like 11 years because it came out in '73, and I think the one Lori, Kurt's sister, has a Letterman jacket that says '62, so it's like 11
Yeah,
years that it goes
it's
back.
1962. It takes place. That's why you get a lot of 50s cars. I think they mentioned that the Hot Rod or something's 1955, and that's like, yeah, you're
I think
getting cars
that's
too
Harrison
old.
Ford's car is like a '55 Chevy. Yeah.
And then even though Dazed has cars in it, maybe it's probably less focused on the cars.
It's like the only real the only cars, the main vehicle that you travel in for a particular period of time is Matthew McConaughey when they're driving around trying to find what they're gonna do for the night.
Yeah, I mean, you get different cars. You definitely get like the station wagon and shit that they're in.
You get the Ben Affleck's big pickup truck that him and all the
yeah,
all
he's
the
got
football
big pickup
players
truck.
cruise
There's
around
like
in.
the stoner van.
Yeah.
I mean, you can count the guy that tried to deliver beer.
That's one of my favorite scenes in this film is him Terry trying to get alcohol, and it's like such an awkward. It's a good scene, and also again another movie that I would say that
I know what you're gonna say.
that follows in this footsteps. Super bad.
Yeah,
Yep, it's 100%. It's like
just less cars.
yeah, still less cars. That's the only thing we're missing in that.
And that
film,
was
but,
contemporary at the time. Like they didn't do it. It was the same concept, but they didn't go back. They're just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
But yeah,
current.
I love the how awkward he is with like the guy in the business suit, and he's like, oh, this guy will never buy me alcohol, so he doesn't even try to get that guy, but then he finds that next guy, and he's like, yeah, can you buy me some liquor? And then he's watching, he's like, oh, not wine, come on, you got to buy me the good stuff, and then that guy like runs out the back or something like that with his.
It's such a
steals
great
his
moment
money.
where like he's like afraid to go in the store, but literally when he feels
Yeah.
like he got tricked, he just goes straight in. Like,
I love his
Oh.
and I love his shopping. It's like I'll take a flashlight, a couple pencils, Old Harper whiskey, some socks. Like he's just buying like all this random stuff.
it's good too because it looks like it's gonna work, and then all of a sudden the guy's like, I am
The
gonna
guy's
have
like
to see an
ID.
ID.
And then when finally you get that last guy that just walks up and he's like, excuse me, sir. Let me guess, you want some alcohol? Sure, let me go in there. The guy immediately runs out, like, just like whips the bottle at him and takes off running, robbing the place.
Yeah, and the owner's just shooting at him.
They're just firing a gun into the night while he's standing there. Like, yeah,
That's
that
actually
scene-
like probably the funniest that George Lucas has ever been. Is that scene right there?
it's a great scene. It's that scene like has perfect comedic timing for like the
It's
whole
so
setup
fast.
of
It
like,
happens so fast. Like
yeah.
everything else kind of lingers, and that guy's like out the door way faster than he could possibly have been.
That he could possibly have like gotten the alcohol and robbed the place. Yeah, yeah. Those are probably the funniest moments of the film. Is everything with Terry and Debbie. Like they're always like having some sort of like weird, goofy stuff going on. Like I love when he gets into a fight after the guys steal the car and they find it later, and he's just like, and that's also after he's like puking everywhere. They're like, I don't think that boy's ever drunk. And she's like, no, no, he loves alcohol. He told me earlier. like, like she seems like she's so like ditzy. She just like believes everything he says 100%. Like she's like, no, he loves alcohol. He told me.
Or like when they're looking for when Ron Howard comes back and he's like, "Where's my car at?" And he's like, "Interesting.
It's in the garage." And then yeah, it's in the garage. And then she goes, yeah, it's crazy. Good thing it's in the garage. Someone stole our car.
Yeah."
They're,
And he
yeah.
has to know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like,
He's
cool
like,
with it.
they try
That's
to
why
like
he didn't care.
breeze
Cars are
past
cheap.
it. Yeah, yeah. He could get a new one. Yeah, everything with those two characters is like really funny, good comedy. The John Milner character in Carol's like, it's like that is like more of like like a brother, so it like turns into like a brother sister relationship.
Yeah, he treats.
But
He
yeah.
acts like a pig in the beginning that you think he's gonna be a creep, and it's actually kind of creepy that she gets in the car with him because it's like stranger danger bullshit. But he ends up being kind of like a protector of her. I mean, he's like half embarrassed. Like I don't want people to see you because of my image. But then it's sort of like, I don't know. People don't really respect you that much, John Milner.
Yeah. Everyone thinks you're
Has been
you're up to no
like,
good
yeah,
anyway.
low life type person. I do love the Moose Lodge shit. Like you've got that. Was it like a scholarship or something from the
Yeah.
Moose Lodge, and they're all proud of him. But I like when
That boy's
Richard-
gonna make a great moose one day.
yeah, Richard Dreyfuss and he's with the Pharaohs, the gang. And they're like, these don't, like, however they say it, they're like, these don't look like your normal group of friends. He's like, oh yeah, they're my friends.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like,
these
he
are my
doesn't
buddies.
fit with them at all.
Yeah. Hey, we're done out here. Oh, what's he mean by you're done out there? Oh, he means we're done having such a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
As they're like stealing the quarters out of the pinball machines to pay for gas.
Yeah, and then what are the adults say? They're like, this is a fun place. Kids love to be here. It's like,
Yeah.
and they're another group that do not look like kids at all, except for that one,
No.
like, Mexican kid. He looks
The
like
one,
he's
yeah, the one
12
looks
or
young, but
something.
the main leader of the group looks like he's 40, for sure. Yeah, yeah. But he's got to then he's got to pull his prank on the cops, which then I love. He's like, ah man, and again it's like it's such like an odd, funny like, almost becomes like a how do I phrase it, like a case of like misunderstandings of like that guy being like, I knew from the moment I met you, I knew you wanted to be a pharaoh the whole time, and this is what you've been trying to do all night long is just get in with us and be a pharaoh. Well, I tell you what, I think we'll make you a pharaoh now. All we got to do is take care of the car, the blood initiation, and then he like runs off, and Richard Dreyfuss is like, whoa, what blood initiation? What's that?
And I do love the Wolfman Jack, like, radio host thing that is
You gotta have a popsicle, man. Come on, my freezer run out. They're melting everywhere. You gotta have a popsicle. Have a popsicle.
pretty prominent part of the movie too. When I grow up, I want to be a wolf man too.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool that
He's
he's so cool, and you listen to him, and he's just like rambling about nothing. He literally sounds like somebody in our small town that was just like had lost their mind and they're just talking on the side of the street.
Yeah. He's he's like the other character.
He's
you
like
have
a
the
scat
you have the
man.
woman in the white T-bird that like everyone has different ideas of who she is, and then he's kind of the same way. There's like the one guy's like, he flies around in an airplane because he's not allowed to broadcast from here. The one guy's like, nah, man, he's in Mexico. He's sending the signal up to America over the border. And then of course like the one guy that's like from the Pharaohs is like the only guy that's like, no, he's not. He's sitting in that stupid tower up on the hill. Like that's where he's at.
And I do like when Richard Dreyfuss goes to see him, and he's like, "I need you to help me find this woman." He's like, "Dude, everything's pre-recorded here.
It's
I
all
can't."
on tapes, man. I just hit play.
He's like, "All right, man, I'll try and squeeze it in for you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Richard
Yeah, I
Dreyfuss,
do.
what a weird career. Like this, Jaws, Close Encounters of the
Close
Third
Encounters.
Kind.
Yeah.
Basically nothing. He has been in recent news at a Jaws screening where he's been like unhinged, talking
Yeah.
about like transgender policies and all
Yeah.
off the wall shit.
He's another one of those guys that you're just like, oh well, I guess we're not talking about him anymore.
Yeah, the college or whatever is like, we apologize for Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Ron
that was such a
Howard's
weird.
actually like probably one of the more prominent ones. Like obviously Harrison Ford's the biggest star out of the whole fucking
Yeah.
movie, with barely being in it. But Ron Howard, even though he's kind of fallen off the screen, he keeps directing movies, narrated Arrested Development for a long time, have little cameos
Yeah.
and shit in that. Like he's still pretty fucking prominent in everything he does, especially now with his daughter. Because his daughter's in everything, so
Yeah.
she's probably starred in more things than he has.
At this point, yeah, because I don't know when. 'Cause when did he start directing? Like the '80s, I guess. Like I don't know is Splash his first thing? What year is that?
I think 86 or something, 87.
Yeah, so sometime around there, I really don't think he's acted in pretty much anything other than like popping up in like small
And
cameos
Splash is
and
pretty
stuff like
funny,
that
but
since
yeah,
then.
now everything is like didn't he do Rush, the car movie?
Yeah,
He did the How
He
the
did
Grinch
that,
Stole Christmas.
he did
And
he
the
had
Da
that other
Vinci
movie with
Code
Chris Hemsworth and Tom Holland where they were
Yeah,
on like
that's
it wasn't Moby Dick, but it was like a weird thing where it was like this is the story that inspired
yeah,
Moby Dick or
the
something
true
like that.
story of what they based
Yeah.
Moby Dick on. Which
He's like
I
another
still
one
never
that,
saw,
like, yeah, he's
looked
like-
okay.
He's like 50-50 with
He is.
like,
He like
when
Apollo
he does, like-
13, A Beautiful Mind. He does some
Yeah.
really good movies, and then he does shit like the Da Vinci Code and the fucking awful.
there's stuff that like he's one that like when he's on and like really doing a good film you're like, oh man, that was amazing. But then then he gets one where you're like, what happened, man?
Did
like
he do
what?
like Frost Nixon? Like whatever
Yeah.
he does, he's like 50-50 with if it's like an awesome fucking movie or a terrible movie.
Frost
Like he's never
Nixon.
made an okay movie.
Solo. I mean, Solo was
I mean,
Solo's
I don't even know
fine.
if
It's not the
really
worst one.
100% his. He's like a fixer. and
yeah,
kinda
that was a
work with
weird
shit that he
it was a
had.
weird thing when he had to like replace. But I mean, it's not the worst one.
No, it's the Da Vinci Code for me. Probably worse
The Da
than
Vinci
the Grinch,
Code's
'cause,
not
like,
even the worst of that trilogy.
I actually don't think I've seen the his Angels and Demons was a better movie, but still not good.
Angels and Demons is
And-
fine. Inferno was like the worst one. Inferno is
I never saw that movie.
pretty bad. That one's pretty rough. I didn't. That one was not good.
And
That's
the Grinch,
probably the
like I
worst one.
rewatched the Grinch and it was like pretty fucking awful, but like for what he was going for with
Yeah.
the like actual sets and everything, like okay,
For-
it's not
yeah,
a good movie.
For what
but
it is, I don't like.
yeah, Jim
I don't
Carrey
hate
is
that one.
alright to watch and funny, and
It's you almost like have to give like, I don't know, Christmas movies get like a pass almost because you're only ever gonna think about them like one time a year. It'll pop up on TV. You'll sit there and be like, well, it was fine. It wasted a couple hours.
and then you'll waste those couple hours next Christmas.
Yeah, watching the same, watching it all over again.
Oh
It's like,
yeah, did I like this movie? No, still pretty terrible.
it's like
Because that was the
the-
Grinch this last year. I hadn't watched it for maybe 10 years, if not longer. Like, it had been a long time. And I think
Yeah.
whenever it came out on DVD, like, it was one of the first things we bought. So, like, we had 3 DVDs, which were, like, The Matrix, The Grinch, and, like, something weird, like Stargate. So, we watched a lot more of The Grinch than I'd like to admit.
I think you probably got your DVDs from the same place I did because I 100% had Stargate. I think Stargate, The Matrix, and I remember us having Ants.
I didn't
was
have
one of the first
Ants,
DVDs
but
I
yeah,
had.
like we had. I think because Sony did a similar thing when Blu-ray players came out, and you could
Yeah.
pick whatever you could pick like tiers of movies, so like you could mix up the selection a little bit, but like of the popular movies, you had like one choice, and then you got some shitty
Yeah.
movies too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't have too many of them. But I think I probably watched The Matrix like a million times, and I think eventually we got like Sleepy Hollow. That was another one we watched way too fucking much. Before I was old enough to start spending money on movies for myself.
Buying your own, yeah.
I mean, I think I had a couple VHS too that were like rewatch, like Scream 2 and Rambo First Blood, or just First Blood. I don't know even why I had that movie. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark 2, had that on VHS for some reason.
I had Star Wars, the Star Wars trilogy, the Indiana Jones trilogy, and Jurassic Park and the Lost World. Those are like, so it's all Steven Spielberg and George Lucas there. Like that's
Hey,
all
I had Spawn.
that was all I had, and I would watch. I don't know. And it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. But I've probably seen Jurassic Park. Has to be in the hundreds of times over my life because that was just one of those VHS
that something like "Hold on to your butts." I'm like Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, it's everywhere there. But yeah, like I said, this movie really makes me wonder, like what was it? Was it just Star Wars? Like just completely took over Lucas's life, and he could never get back to ever remotely making any sort of film that wasn't that ever again. Because like this movie gets put on lists of like one of the greatest movies of all time. Like it gets put up pretty much side by side with Star Wars as being one of those films
and the
that got
soundtrack's
nominated
great, too.
Got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. It's in the National Film Registry. It's like one of the most successful movies of all time when adjusting like dollars for versus its budget. And it's like why he never went back to anything like this ever in his life. Like
I mean, he kind of came back for the prequels because he said he had a story, but I think he was more interested in the technology, because when he started messing around and doing special editions of the Star Wars movies, that's what really excited him. It wasn't the fucking story. And I've rewatched all of his movies a couple times, and his first three are pretty good or great, and then the prequel trilogy is like it just seems like somebody who didn't even want to make movies made that.
It feels like they were just being made because he felt like the story, like the overall story wasn't complete because he started doing 4, 5, and 6. It felt like he was just sitting there.
They even
and
retroed
for
like the first Star Wars movie doesn't even have an episode. They just went back and
they had to
made
add that in later.
episode 4.
Yeah.
And then I think like Empire and Jedi, I think just kind of benefited from having like a better, stronger director making those movies. And this was sort of like, I watched behind the scenes shit, and like Red Letter Media, as much people as like people hate them for being so negative, they're pretty much spot on with what happened to those movies, where like nobody wants to say no to George Lucas. Like every idea he has, they're yes men. That's perfect, George. We love that idea. It's like, if anybody gave him any real feedback, the movies would have been way better. But he does genuinely seem to love movies, because like I even saw a thing recently where he's talking about Disney's Star Wars movies and projects and stuff, and he's like very satisfied with everything that he's seen so far. And it's kind of weird that you have these people that are like, George was perfect. Like there seems to be kind of like that group that has grown up with the prequels loves the prequels, and I think they're gonna get the same thing with like the next Star, like Rise of Skywalker, probably like the worst one, and there's gonna be a fan base for that movie. Like I guarantee it. It's just going to be
Yeah.
15 years behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, he committed to the Star. Like, it's kind of weird too because I had the idea that once he sold Star Wars for like $4 billion to Disney, I thought that he was gonna kind of. I thought he said something along the lines that sounded like he was gonna do like smaller like indie things that like he thought about doing.
Or
And
like
then he
yeah,
never
the projects that he said like, oh yeah, I just never had time to make that because because I was so invested in Star Wars. Like yeah, he did I think say something along those lines. The only thing he's done since then was he had that there was that animated movie Strange Magic that was like fairies and stuff like that, and that like bombed and wasn't popular at all.
I mean, I hate to say it, but anytime I hear his ideas, they don't seem very good. Or maybe he's just not good at describing the things that are in his head.
You didn't want to see Indiana Jones in the haunted Scottish mansion?
Honestly, that sounds all right, but if it actually did replace The Last Crusade, that would be really shitty. But like, whenever you hear about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's so funny because it's just interviews of Steven Spielberg just giving in. He's like, yeah, I just kind of just did everything that George wanted. He's like, they're not aliens, they're interdimensional beings. He's like, okay, George.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Yeah. But I was actually kind of surprised that, I mean, it's talking more about Lucasfilm than anything, which is just Indiana Jones and Star Wars at this point. But that last Indiana Jones movie was not that good, and I expected it a lot better from James Mangold because his track record's been much better.
Pretty decent, yeah.
Yeah, he's like maybe another movie I can't think of right now that I was just like, eh. But most of his movies, fucking awesome.
It's
so
like,
yeah. He'll make a decent Indiana Jones.
I think that falls into the category of that's maybe one of the more interesting things when you're watching this film being Harrison Ford's first movie is again he's not the best actor. It's it's clear that he doesn't have like all the training.
He's like doing a terrible accent of like
he has like a bad accent and stuff like that, but it's genuinely like interesting to see Harrison Ford seemingly having fun while making a movie, because that just like one day stopped. Like I don't know exactly where it is in his filmography that it just became like making movies is just not what he wants to do anymore. But it's the only thing he knows how to do. So so he just keeps doing the movies because he needs money to do other things. So it's interesting to contrast watching that with watching like the new Indiana Jones, where it seems like he's absolutely does not want to be there. He's just there because I'm sure he's getting a really good paycheck to be there. And
right, the last one that worked with him reprising a character was probably Blade Runner, and they were smart to not have him be the main character in it.
Well, yeah, either that, Blade Runner, or he's fine in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But again, I think he was probably enjoying himself because they killed his character off. Yeah, he's
one that's been killed off since Return of the Jedi. He said.
Yeah, he finally like got his way. So I think that was again another one of those where it seemed like he was like, I'm gonna have fun because I'm gonna get killed off. So they can't force me to keep doing these movies ever again, and I'll quit getting the phone calls about.
Well, he does kind of come back for another movie. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Rise as like a ghost or something for a second.
But I'm sure that wasn't a ton of work. They probably did it in his house. He probably didn't even have to leave.
They're like, if Carrie Fisher can be in this movie, you can be in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, if she can be in after dying, you can show up.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was a good one to start talking about car movies. I think it definitely hits all the criteria. I mean, it's just so many.
What's
cars.
your favorite car in this movie?
I mean, probably. I would say probably Ron Howard's car.
Yeah,
I like that style.
I like Milner's hot rod because, like, just the shots of him hanging out that small ass window. Like, sometimes it doesn't look like he's even like driving the car because he's like so deep down inside that car that he
Yeah.
like yeah, it's a great car, and I think it does a really good job of like his personality of trying, like you said, the cars are all everybody's personality.
Yeah.
And I guess to bring back to that, even like Milner's personality is like he wants to stand out but he's kind of old. That's that car.
Yeah.
And then Terry, who you said like pretty much is the main character in this, or maybe the more interesting character, and
Yeah.
his car is not his car, so it's just like he's lying about who he is, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what that is.
Yeah. But the car also fits like Ron Howard. Like it's white. It's like perfectly
It's
clean, and
white. You
that's
should
like
have just
how
ended it there.
it's. Yeah. He's white. It's white, but it's like everything's like spotless on the car. Like that's his like. He seems like he has that very uptight personality of like no, the car's got to be perfect. And he's like he's going over. I left a list of everything you got to do. You got to wash it by hand, and then you got to towel dry it. But you got to be careful. You don't want to scratch the paint job. Like he wants it to be perfect. And then yeah, like Kurt's car is again like kind of like a schlubby like
Just
it's
like
like
Kurt.
some yeah some like off-brand car that's not even a normal one that he just rolls up in, but it's very much him. It's just very plain. There's nothing super interesting about it.
And then next week, I actually have never seen that movie before. I've heard about it for a long time, but I honestly don't even know what it's about. I think I keep thinking of Rubber every time I hear about this movie.
I was thinking too when we were talking about like I was like that's kind of a car movie. It's a piece of a car.
But I was talking about your next week when we do Holy Motors.
Yeah. That's a it's an interesting one. It's definitely that's a movie that's getting closer to something like not exactly, but getting more into like experimental like Titan or something like that, where it's
Yeah.
like it's a car movie, but not necessarily not necessarily like just driving around and having a good time in a car movie.
Well, like, yeah, when you say car movies, there's like, in my mind, I think of like the 70s car movies. And I watched a bunch of them last year, but a lot of those movies, like, they're still not about the car.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
like,
I think a lot of times when you say car movie, people are just thinking about a movie with like one good car chase,
Bullet.
like
That's
Bullet,
Bullet.
French
Yeah.
Connection, stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, most of the movie isn't about cars or features and them prominently, other than one super great car chase that's like 10 minutes out of a 2 hour movie.
Yeah, and then
The
this is
the, the
like the
only
whole life.
real
And, like, yeah, there's a whole lifestyle to what's going on in American Graffiti with the cars,
yeah
that it's very much a cars movie. Not knowing anything about Holy Motors, the title alone sounds like a fucking car movie.
yeah
And my movie's also very definitely a car movie, even if it's not the main plot. It's also like instinctually in the world, that is what
yeah
the cars are very important to the plot, or the living in that universe, I guess I should say. So it'll be fun to continue on. I really had no idea where I was. Like, I've thought about so many different things, and even like I was thinking like Christine, even, but we already discussed
I
Christine.
did Christine.
But it's very much a car movie too.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
car
mean the like the ultimate car movie from the 70s would be if we did Vanishing Point.
Yeah, that has to be probably the quintessential one, because it's just beginning to end in the car. Like, he never
It's
fucking
just
leaves the car.
just a guy driving that car for across however, whatever few states or however far he has to go in that car.
Yeah. And I mean, you have other things like Smokey and the Bandit. This was definitely a theme where you could have literally went anywhere under the sun. But I tried
Yeah.
to do something that was like a little bit more
I almost,
closer.
I
'Cause like,
almost,
yeah,
we,
you
we,
think like
we went
Ferris Bueller.
we went Lucas this time, but I almost did Duel by Spielberg. That's a great
Yeah, I
car
just watched
movie.
that again recently, and that's maybe a little bit closer to Vanishing Point, where it's almost completely in a car too.
It just takes, yeah, where it's just that guy in the car for like the entire 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Spielberg was like, "This is how you make a car movie."
yeah, I'll show Lucas. I've never seen it, but there was also, I think the other one I was thinking of is the old James Brolin movie that's just called The Car. I think's also kind of like a Christine, where it's like the car is trying to kill him.
You could have done Maximum Overdrive.
I was thinking about that too. That's another good. Although it's more of a truck movie because the big
Green
the thing everyone
Goblin.
remembers from it is the Green Goblin toy truck, 18-wheeler.
Well, there's that steamroller.
Yeah. That's just a general vehicular movie.
But yeah, like I said, like Ferris Bueller, like there's a pretty interesting plot point about the car. But yeah, it's not. I wouldn't consider it a car movie, so I tried to go as in as I possibly could with cars, and I think if it sounds like you
Yeah.
did too. At least you did it with American Graffiti. And next week I'll figure out if you did it with Holy Motors.
We'll
too.
see. Yeah, we'll see with that one.
But yeah, greatly looking forward to that. Yeah, you can go back. We did an Apes episode. Go check that out. And we did our documentaries. There's a glitch in the system. One of our episodes might be not recorded because of circumstances. Is that mysterious, Chuck? The lost episodes.
It'll be there eventually.
Yeah, we should have lost episodes. They're not really lost. We're just making them up as we go along.
One of the episodes is just about Lost.
Whatever.
It's
at
just
random.
it's just a Lost episode.
I actually would like that one episode.
We bill
And we
that as a Lost episode. It's just an
We
episode
just
of us
generally
talking
talk about the show Lost,
talk
not,
about
not a
Lost,
specific
yeah.
episode, just whatever
Not
we
even
can bring
yeah.
up. That would actually be fun to do because, especially without a rewatch, because
Just trying to remember.
there's so much in that show that, like, while the show was on, I was like so up to date on everything, and now after all these years, like, not having rewatched the show since I don't think I rewatched the show since it finished. And
We watched
yeah,
it
just to
one
try to go
time.
back and remember what the hell happened in that show.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
You're like, was Jin on this one? Was he? Where was he at this point in time? Was he with Sun? Like, what was going on?
They made
Who
it
was
pretty
he with?
close to the end.
Yeah.
I think they're like a couple episodes away from the finale before they get it. Yeah, and you still see a lot of him. See, this is becoming the Lost episode, and that's not what this is. This is the American Graffiti episode. So we're done talking about it. That makes this the end of the episode. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye. We are Cinema d'Amore. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with news and information on upcoming episodes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Alexa, or iHeartRadio. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to our podcast on your platform of choice. We also appreciate feedback, so rate us, review us, and let us know what you think. And above all else, thank you for listening.